Hey there and welcome to the Backlog Music Talk. I'm Chris and today I want to talk about last week's release, What Would You Say? If you haven't already, I suggest you go back and have a listen. Otherwise, you might be wondering what on earth I'm talking about. Ready? Great. Then let's take a look at how this song came to be. Have you ever had a friend where one day, out of nowhere, something just shifted? Where the person who was always just there suddenly wasn't just there anymore? Yeah, that's what today's episode is all about. The song is called What Would You Say? And it's one that's gotten unexpectedly close to my heart. And by that I mean there's no actual personal backstory here, even though the concept behind it is very familiar to a lot of people. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but it must have been, say, 1 or 2 years ago when I stumbled upon an article in one of those online editions of a national once printed newspaper about when friends fall in love with each other. Now, I'm not even the biggest fan of romantic comedies, at least not in general, but that day it kind of triggered my interest. And not only that, I don't even remember the actual story in that article anymore, but after I finished reading it, I followed up and fell into a rabbit hole on Reddit. And I mean a proper rabbit hole. Real people telling their stories, past or current relationships, how they fell for someone after knowing them for years, sometimes decades. And there was a pattern in a lot of these. It was never some big dramatic moment. It was always something mundane. Meeting with colleagues, but one were late and you got to talk. Sitting in a car after a night out, nobody wanting to be the one to say, I should go. Some complete unremarkable day that, in hindsight, turned out to be the hinge the whole story swung on. From an almost rational perspective, the quote-unquote concept and why this happens is pretty clear, right? You get to know each other before committing to anything you might regret later. Try before you buy, so to speak. I'd guess it's pretty common that couples meet at their job, their hobby, doing shared activities or, of course, from within the circle of friends, and an extended version of that. But all rationality aside, I gotta admit, I read some genuinely romantic stories and I knew I had to write a song about that. So the story I'm telling in What Would You Say is completely made up, yes. Not based on anything specific I read or anything I experienced myself, but I think it works well, and it's realistic enough that it could plausibly have happened to someone. Let's talk about a couple of the actual images in the song for a second. Because I made some choices there on purpose. I didn't want a party or some big romantic setup. You know the saying, great couples have great stories? I don't think the real world works like that. So I went with a moving day instead. Moving apartments is such an unglamorous, sweaty, annoying kind of day. Everyone's tired, nobody looks their best, and that's exactly why it works as the setting. There's no pressure, no one's trying to impress anyone. Which is exactly the kind of situation where you stop performing and something real can actually sneak up on you. And then it's just the two of them. Everyone else has gone home. We ordered in and I unboxed some wine. That line specifically, I wanted something small and domestic, not some grand gesture. Just a tired night winding down into something else. And moments later, all stars aligned. That's the whole turn of the song. Now this one has female vocals and that was actually a deliberate choice, not an afterthought. I liked the idea of the person telling the story being the one who's a little more sure and a little more ready to say the quiet part out loud. The repetitions in the chorus were there from the very first draft. Since the whole thing was meant to feel romantic, I wanted something slow but still movable, if that makes sense. More like something you could slow dance to. I'm not exactly a dancer myself, never been. When I'm dancing all in, it looks more like I'm having a stroke. But slow dancing, I can do. So when I read the chorus out loud for the first time, it already had this reggae rhythm baked into it. And I gotta say I was genuinely impressed with how this one turned out as a package. Even without the romantic storyline, I think it turned out to be an awesome song for hot summer nights. So I guess that's it for this song. A story about a moment of friendship quietly turns into something else. And if this ever actually happened to you, if you've got a "we were just friends until we weren't" story, I would genuinely love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. So until next time, bye.